All right, cool, guys. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm Johanze. I did a workshop yesterday too, so I'm not really new. We have Boris with us. He's from SubQuery team. Boris, if you would like to give introduction, that would be really cool.
Hi, name is Boris, representing SubQuery in developer relations initiatives, and excited to be here.
Sounds good, man. So I will share my screen, guys. Just talk about some use cases for SubQuery, and then Boris will have Boris, if you want to share also your screen, not right now. I'll just share my screen right now. Just go ahead with this presentation, and then we can talk about more subquery use cases. All right. Can you guys? So the Boris screen is good, right?
Yeah, is it you previewing
Yeah.
the
I'm,
screen? All right,
yeah, I'm the one sharing the screen.
cool.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys. So let's talk about what is subquery, right? So subquery is that actually allows developers to define specific data sources and also maps to index the data they need from the blockchain. As you know that Coreum blockchain and other blockchain platforms, they generate a vast amount of data through transactions, smart contracts, and other on-chain activities. And usually the data is really unstructured and makes it really challenging to retrieve the specific information. So I will also show you how the events and logs looks like in blockchain explorer, and you guys will understand how the data is so complicated and is so unstructured, so it makes really hard. But subquery makes it so easy. It actually allows you to index data and makes it easy to map those data that you need from the blockchain. And obviously the solution is really cool. You can index specific events, transaction, smart contract states, and they also, I mean, subquery also ensure that the data is readily available and can be retrieved efficiently with their code. And obviously later on Boris will explain you through the code and how you can index events, how you can index logs and states. I think that's going to be really cool. And yeah, I mean, there's some use cases here. I mean, you guys can see with the terminal, there's logging, there's events and messages, showing some in-queue blocks, and also showing you the thread information. Later on, obviously, when Boris is gonna be coding, is gonna show you how the terminal looks like, and yeah, and here is the GraphQL schema. I have actually gone through their cool query playground where you have to obviously uh, give the schema and it will return you the data structure. As you can see on the right hand, it's showing you the events, block height, transaction hash, and yeah, so there was was a quick presentation. Boris has more to add. Boris, I would just give it to you, and if you want to share your screen, that would be cool. Let me just let me stop sharing my screen, and then you can go ahead share your screen.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, I'll try to add that
Sure.
this was a really good introduction for what actually SubQuery doing. So,
Yeah.
but it's not only the SDK; it's actually more. So what SubQuery is offering is actually a like end-to-end solution. So obviously, you would be interested in having the raw data structured in a queryable and easily searchable form. And for that, there is an SDK in place, the Indexer Developer SDK, that is going to be a topic for today's call. But like once you have already developed your indexer, you'll probably be interested in publishing it somewhere. So since the SDK is open source and essentially it's a TypeScript project, it could be self-hosted, it could be hosted on the popular centralized cloud provider service like AWS or Google Cloud. But there are other options as well. So there is something what is called managed services. Essentially, it's a centralized cloud developed by SubQuery for SubQuery projects to be hosted on. So it's really easy to configure. And there's also a decentralized marketplace, a decentralized network of indexes and RPC that is called SubQuery Network. So yeah, essentially those are the deployment options. So a couple of words about subquery. First of all, it's open source, it's Docker friendly, it's really simple and easy to configure. There are only 3 types of files that need to be configured. I'm going to be going over them during the demonstration. It's highly customizable because you're getting like the flexibility of TypeScript. It's super fast, especially comparing to some of the similar projects. It's really feature rich. So features like data aggregations or I don't know, type safety multi-chain is available under the hood real time. So your apps won't need to pull data. They can subscribe to the indexer via WebSocket and receiving the latest indexed entities like on the fly. Multi-chain, and the multi-chain feature is heterogeneous. So let's say there is a protocol built on Coreum that is like cross-chain protocol, which is having like a Coreum as a part of the execution. So let's say it's a bridge. So somebody built a bridge between Coreum and like EVM blockchain. So as a developer of the application of this bridge, would probably be interested in the execution of the transactions like across all the blockchains that it was going through. So you might want to have a simultaneous connection to both blockchains and track executions across both sides and index it within the same database and same entity within an indexer, so that your decentralized application need to query only a single API instead of deploying a separate indexer for a separate blockchain. It's super flexible, so you can actually use third-party libraries. You can also, query the public APIs, for instance, to fetch some data or anything from off-chain, and compatible with several architectures, including Cosmos, obviously. So essentially, this is a stack. So SubQuery SDK is just a tool that connects to blockchains. Then it filter data to a database, and this database is being served by GraphQL, so that explorers, dApps, mobile apps, analytics, or any other kind of apps could query the filtered data needed for the specific use case of the specific product. It's really easy to get started with. You'll need to have Node.js installed. You'll need to have Docker installed if you want to be launching the SubQuery project via Docker, which is a recommended way to do it and the most straightforward one. And the SubQuery CLI for the project initiation together with CodeGen and build. There are 3 simple steps to configure every SubQuery project. I'm going to be going over the specific files during the demo. And SubQuery is also having a template for Coreum, which is really easy to get started with, and it could be scaffolded from the CLI itself. So if you type in your command line subql init, then you'll be able to find this specific template. And I'm going to be previewing a code of it right now. So we've picked a really simple use case, which is about the indexing of the transfer events and messages on Coreum, and yeah, I'm gonna be going over it. So, are there any questions on?
Just quick question from my side.
Yeah.
How do you think that AI engineers or data scientists or machine learning, how they can utilize subquery?
Well, any language model, I guess, or even like,
Because
yeah.
I'm thinking, because they obviously you can index the data, right? You can query from the blockchain from obviously you're getting events and logs. So I think it makes more sense. This tool is really used for blockchain developers, and also it can be used for other developers, not only like blockchain developers, right? It can be used by data scientists, could be used by data analysts, could be used by AI engineers, whatever the space is, right? for example, if they want to see how the blockchain is working and maybe just visualize it, it can be used for so many different things. So I'm just wondering, is it possible that these that data scientists or analysts can use your tool and maybe build something really cool product?
Yeah, of course. So subquery is bringing exposure to data. So as you said, it's completely unstructured now.
Yeah.
It's only the events messages that are hard to read, like even in the block explorers. But
Mm-hmm.
if you are if you're converting this like raw data to some kind of a
CSV or
structured form, or
yeah,
even let's call it a knowledge, yeah, I
yeah,
mean information, then it is already something that could be working, that could one work with. So it is already something that could be fed to all those AI models, and AI models need data, and
sure, cool,
especially from on-chain.
super cool, man. Nice. Yeah, that's the. I don't think anyone has the questions. If you guys have questions, please ask me or Boris. We'd love to answer you guys. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, I'm also I'm also going to be going over the template, a startup project, a scaffolded project for Coreum. And explaining the configuration process. So essentially, there are only three types of files that need to be configured. There is a schema file, which is essentially a specification for your API. Here you're going to be specifying the queryable entities, queryable from your indexer. So in our specific case, since we're interested in indexing only the transfer events and messages, there are only two entities that we're manifesting here. So obviously, anyone is having the flexibility to change the names and populate the corresponding entities with different properties. So for message, you're seeing those trivial properties with the corresponding type. So for instance, for the blockchain height, we're having begin. And so schema is for API specification. The second type of file is a manifest file. So essentially, a manifest file is an instruction for an indexer which primitives to fetch from a blockchain. By primitives, I mean like the primitives of blockchain. So I mean for Cosmos specific blockchains, that should be events, messages, blocks, transactions, and essentially a manifest file is giving the instruction to the indexer that you should be fetching those, and those should be passed as a parameter to a certain function, and then it's going to be handled as part of the function. So just going over the setup here. So we're having the chain ID included, the Coreum mainnet. We're also indicating the endpoint, the RPC node to be fetching data from. And we're also doing the type generation here. So this is an optional step, but it's really helpful if you wanna ensure safety and like during the runtime execution of your project, and TypeScript is giving the availability to power your project with types. So essentially, you use chain types to create the types for your specific protofiles to have the safety of data handling. The data sources object is essentially an object where one is configuring those primitives to be fetched from blockchain. So we're going to be starting in indexing the indexing from this block. Also, yeah, and we have handlers. So handlers, as I told, are those essentially those functions that are handling the primitives that are being fed to it as an argument. So in our cases, there are two handlers. So the first handler is having a name handle event. we are specifically telling that we're interested in fetching the event as a primitive. We are also doing the filtering, so we're filtering by type, we're taking the transfer, and we're also filtering by a message. So this is a message that we're filtering this event by. Similar goes for handle message, but instead of a event here in the kind, the message is used, and a certain message filter is also applied here. So for this specific case, the indexer is going over the blocks one by one. It's trying to find the specific event with those filters, and once this event is found, it is being passed as an argument to a function that's having a name handle event. And those functions are a third type of files that should be configured. Those are called the mapping files. So essentially, those serve to connect the manifest and the schema to like give this like meaningful structure to the primitives handled from blockchain, and handle those primitives somehow and save them to the entities that are that were specified here in the schema file.
A quick question, Boris. Are these
Yeah.
handlers customizable? Like, for example,
Yes.
okay.
As you can see, this is a TypeScript code here, and we can write any arbitrary code here. In the example of the event handling, here we're utilizing the type safety features. So we're specifically stating that the event passed here is of type the Cosmos event. We're then printing the block height here. And finally, we are populating the transfer event entity that we've previously created, like from that was created in schema file, and that was generated from it. And it's now having its own type. So then we're just decoding all the data from the initial event. We are populating some of the properties. So for instance, for block height, we are essentially accessing the height and then converting it to a big integer, so that it's it's compliant with the schema that we're giving here. As this step, that's the way to iterate over the attributes of the event. And since a lot of really meaningful data, for instance, after the contract's execution, or even for a transfer, is residing specifically in the event info, the event should be handled in that case. So in order for us to obtain the recipient, the sender, and the amount, an event should be accessed, and those values need to be extracted. Similar goes for a message, but here instead of populating the transfer event entity, we're populating the message entity and just save it with also with necessary decoding and the necessary modifications. So yeah, you're having the whole flexibility. So since this is a TypeScript language, you can also, as I was previously saying, connect any third-party libraries. And I don't know, for this specific case, you would probably be interested to fetch the dollar equivalent for this amount. You would probably need to query some kind of a third-party API to fetch it. And yeah, then you can just save it. And so essentially you're having the flexibility. The next step is to launch all of this. So as I was telling, the simplest way to launch it would be the Docker file. But for the safety reasons, I have already published it to the managed services, a centralized solution for subquery projects be hosted. But if you were interested in launching a project via Docker, you could simply use this small command, which itself is consists of 3 subcommands. So first you're generating the TypeScript code, then you're building the project, and then you're just running a Docker compose, which itself consists of 3 essential components: a database, the indexer itself, which is going to be fetching data from blockchain and saving it to a database, and a GraphQL engine that is going to give an access to data saved in the database. Yeah, so I have already prepared. I have already set up the project and already done some pre-indexing. So here's what
Or
you're.
would it be okay if you can show how you can run through the terminal? For example, like np run script dev, and then you can use the simple query of schema file, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sure. Yep. Let me quickly switch back. All right. Should be visible now.
Okay, so if someone has a question, can we use this to store data and fetch to update values and display on the mutable NFTs metadata, mutable attributes like view counts, ownership, or other dynamic properties? How expensive it is to use the API in storage? That's the question. Like how expensive it is to use the API in storage. Is there any cost related to it, or?
Yeah. So regarding the cost, as I was telling, there are several options for you to deploy a project. So
Mhm.
this is a open source SDK, and if you're interested in self-hosting it, it's going to be having like its own price model. If you're interested in utilizing the managed services, the subquery managed services,
Mhm.
essentially a centralized cloud for subquery projects, then it's going to be a different price model. But it's having a free tier that is having obviously its limits. But until those limits, this is completely free. The third option would be to publish it to a decentralized network, which is obviously still having a completely different price model, which is token based mostly. So depends on the premises that you want to be hosting your project on.
Hopefully, it answered your question, Chris.
Yeah, I think there is another question here about NFT metadata. So
Um, can we use this to store data and fetch to update values in displays? Yes, you can definitely. Whatever it's stored on blockchain and Coreum blockchain, you can definitely can fetch through the subquery. You can fetch the metadata as Boris mentioned. You can fetch the events, logs, transaction, smart contract state. So it wouldn't be hard to actually fetch the mutable NFT metadata. Actually, Boris, you know what? Yesterday we had a workshop on dynamic NFTs where you can change where you can change NFT metadata. So that's what the question is about, and how we can actually fetch through subquery. Can we fetch the metadata? And obviously the answer is yes, Chris. You can. Yeah. So yeah, you can start, Boris.
all right. So we're back in terminal, and we can launch the project in Docker. As I've previously told, you'll actually really need this one simple command, and I'm going to be running it from Yarn. First, it's going to be SQL code generated, then project's going to be built, and then all the Docker components will be up and running. I was previously previously executing the project locally, so I'll also need to remove this small .data folder first. So it's really easy to do, and this is actually a recommended way to do it if you really want to debug your project well, because if you forget to delete this, if you forget to delete essentially the data that was saved during the previous executions, then even after the modification of the code, you'll still populate this old database, but you probably would be interested in completely wiping it. So it's suggested way to remove it with every run if it's necessary, of course. So this is a command to run everything. So if I press the enter button now, it should be up and running. We're going to be seeing the Postgres database starting up. We're going to be seeing the logs from SubQuery node and the GraphQL engine itself. So
Nice. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show to the people. That's actually cool. Okay, as you guys can see right here, it basically is gonna show the thread information, in queue blocks, and more information. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, here we're seeing that the certain blocks are being indexed and handled.
Yeah.
Here we're seeing the messages and events that were found. Unfortunately, something's wrong with the block height being printed, but I don't think that's really matters. We can access the project from a locally hosted GraphQL engine. I'm going to be showing it to you just now. Playground. Here we go. So this is launched locally and being served locally. And if I press the play button, we can see all this data structured in a meaningful form that is really easy to query and work with. I can also probably enable the aggregations just to show you this feature. So as you've seen in the code, we are saving all the data like in an atomic manner. So for each event, there's a separate like entry in the database essentially. So this data is saved and being served in atomic matter. But let's say one is trying to calculate the aggregations for the project, for instance, for the statistics page, or like to get any kind of like a macroeconomic parameters of a certain protocol, then one would also be able to aggregate those like directly from the query itself. So for the client applications, it's not really needed to go over this data and try to somehow manually aggregate it within the system.
Just for the context, if you can just copy this transaction hash and maybe show it to the block explorer, that would be also cool. You can go ahead with the transfer events.
Yeah. So those are the aggregates, and in this specific query, we are interested in fetching the group aggregates. We're grouping by the sender of the transfer. We're displaying the keys, and we are displaying the first block height when one was executing a transfer. So we're displaying the first transaction for every address out there. So this is similar to what you probably have seen in SQL. Those group I's are similar to those essentially. And this is really helpful, especially if you just need the aggregated data. So coming back to transfers, so let us speak this hash ID and just no, let us actually uh, fetch some more associated data, recipient, sender, and now we can copy the transaction hash. And yeah, so all right, this is a hash that we have copied. Those are the addresses, and this is the amount. And if we just switch to to the logs, to the block explorer of the same transaction hash, we'll be able to see the same data. So transaction hash matches, blockchain height matches, and here's where the other parameters were fetched from. So to fetch the amounts, we looked into the logs, into the event. This is the exact value that was indexed. Though this is the receiver, this is the sender, and those are matching. So same goes for message. We've also been handling it, and yeah, data essentially matches. But yeah, as we were previously discussing, if you are about to build, if you're somehow like about to leverage on-chain data in a programmatic way from your application, or whether you're a data scientist and you're interested in having exposure to data, it would be quite hard to iterating over those like JSON objects from your code. So what you want instead, what is an API? So this is what the indexes are for. Are there any questions?
No, there's no questions to allow.
All right.
All right. So are we good, Boris?
Yeah, I think I'm good on my side. Happy to answer the questions if there are any. So
Let's.
I also wanted to
Yep.
say that the academy is the best place to start if you're having any technical related obstacles. And essentially, academy is giving all those quick start guides and really helping to scaffold your project on Coreum to get started more
Yeah,
easily.
super awesome. And plus, guys, if you have any questions, please, you guys can ask any questions to me or Boris. I think we're just gonna be here for 2 more minutes. If you have questions, we'd love to answer you guys.
Yeah. There's also a Discord community for the help on the projects that you're trying to build. So if there are any technical question, the Discord
Yeah, that's a
server
good
would be the
point.
best place.
That's really good point, guys. Obviously, uh, Twitter is not the right space for us, for you guys to ping us. I think the best place would be Discord community. Ping us there regarding anything. Would love to answer you guys. Okay, so I don't see any questions being raised. All right, I don't see any questions. All right, guys, then no questions mean then we have to end this party, you know, and then, yeah, you have a good weekend. Boris, thanks for this cool workshop. Really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in, guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully see you guys later in future. I mean, next week there's gonna be another workshop on token clawback, so it'll be really exciting. And thanks again, Boris.
All right. Yeah, it was exciting to be here. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Later.